So the cooldown for this will be a line of cones, 5 cones, and so she will jog through these cones and back, and then the second time she'll jog through and do a backwards jog to return to the starting point. Then she'll sidestep, changing directions at each cone, and do the same coming back. Then she will lunge at each cone and do the same coming back. And she'll open the gate one way and close the gate coming back. And then she will lunge and twist up and jog back. Again, this is going to cool down the muscles that are used in the main session and return her to her resting heart rate, preventing injury and preventing DOMs the following days, especially considering that she'll be working anaerobically in a zone that she's not used to and pushing herself to limits where she hasn't pushed herself in a very long time. In week 4, the client will not increase the rate of her jog or her cycle to work this week, as if she did, she wouldn't be working in the training zone I want her to be in. I want her to work aerobically at an intensity where she won't be too fatigued for work. The changes to the continuous training will be a further increase in intensity and a change in equipment. So this week the client will work on a treadmill instead. This is to have a change in order to prevent tedium over doing the same sort of session every week. It gives her a feel for something different and something that perhaps she might even prefer, which would lead to changes in the future weeks. This week the client will again work at 65 to 70% of her maximum heart rate. This again will enable her body systems to still adapt due to the increase in demand of this exercise from the previous week's demands. It'll also not push her to the point where she can't continue to work and exercise at that intensity. It'll again allow adaptations to her aerobic system and will also improve the health of her body system. Don't want to increase the zone she's working in. I want her to stay working aerobically, to improve her general health of her body systems and her aerobic endurance as well, whilst also burning fat in this exercise as well. It may not be as much of a fat burner as the interval training that she does is, but it still does do that and still does have that effect of helping her lose weight. The main adaptation this week is that the session will now last 30 minutes instead. Extending the time she works for will mean she's working aerobically and using aerobic glycolysis for longer, so her body adapts to enable that use without fatigue. The warm-up for this continuous training will be walking on the treadmill with no resistance, and that should be at no higher than 55 to 60% of her maximum heart rate. Then she will dismount the treadmill and do the same stretches as the previous weeks because it's using the same muscle groups. So that would be lunges, open the gate, close the gate, and the previously mentioned quadricep stretch. And then the cool down will be simply walking on the treadmill at a 0 resistance until her heart rate returns to that maximum of 80 beats per minute. So this week, the warm-up for the high-intensity interval training will consist of a ladder warm-up. So going up the ladder will be different to down. So first, going up, she'll do 2-foot jumps. Going down, she'll do a backwards run. Going up, she'll do 1 foot in each. Coming down, she'll do a jog. Coming up, she'll do a hop on one leg, and down she'll do cross step, and then she'll do the opposite leg and cross step down. And then going up, she will do 2 feet in, 2 feet out, and then coming down, she will sidestep. And she'll run through that whole thing twice. Afterwards, she'll do some dynamic stretches. So that would be to a cone that I'll have set out, it'll be a set distance, and she will lunge forwards and then she'll do sideways lunge, and then she'll do holding her heel to her glute, and then she will do a latissimus dorsi stretch, which is lunging and twisting, twisting her upper body, and then lastly she'll do some arm stretches just to make sure she gets a full body warm up. So that would be pulling her arm across her body and then doing arm circles. The main session this week, so for each move, again, she'll perform as many reps as possible, but this week it'll be in 35 seconds and she'll rest for 15 seconds. So this time we're increasing the amount of time that she's doing it for, meaning she's going to fatigue more, meaning her muscles and her body systems have to adapt to that, and adapt to the increased demand due to that fatigue. Afterwards she'll obviously, like last week, continue to the next move, and after she's completed all 4 moves she'll rest for 1 minute before she repeats the circuit. And she'll do 4 circuits in total like last week. The session includes tuck jumps, jump squats, heel flicks and bicycle kicks. I've changed the activities this week from the previous week to again mean that she's got something new, and something that she might not have done before, so that she can take interest in that and keep focused. Gives her something exciting to look forward to, doing something different, preventing boredom. And again, because of the requirement to perform as many reps as possible, she'll be working again in that 80 to 90% of her maximum heart rate. And again, this interval training is going to burn fat as an energy store, which helps her lose weight, which is her long-term and short-term goal. The cooldown for this week will be the same as last week, which will be jogging through and back, then jogging through and backwards, jog back, then sidestepping, changing direction at each cone, then lunging at each cone, then open the gate at each cone, then close the gate at each cone, then lunging and twisting, and jogging back. So the same as last week. The biggest change this week is the addition of yoga on a Saturday. So in this yoga she will sit. The warm-up will consist of her sitting cross-legged, inhaling and exhaling slowly for 2 minutes, and bending her torso left to right in rhythm with her breathing. She doesn't need to do a full body with full stretches like last time, as this stretching is kind of what actually occurs in the main session of yoga. So the main session will consist of this. She'll start by doing the cow pose and then transfer that into the cat pose. Then she'll move into the downwards dog, which will turn into a lunge before moving into an extended side angle. She'll then lie face down for the locust pose, before lying flat on her back and breathing slowly for 2 minutes. It's very short, but it will enable her to get into a calm state, something to relieve the stress of her work. And I want her to do yoga because these specific poses warm up the spine, hips, back and abs, and her shoulders and neck. So this also not only helps relieve stress of work, but it also aids recovery from exercise on other days by rushing blood and relieving tension in those areas. It should also help relieve strain from her weight, something she mentioned can sometimes be an issue, specifically on her back. So that's why I've introduced yoga on that Saturday. It shouldn't take too much time either, so it still kind of gives her a rest day to use as leisure, and as she pleases. In week 5, again, I won't increase the rate of the jog or cycle this week, as I want her to be continuing to work in that training zone and working aerobically at an intensity where she won't be too fatigued for when she arrives at work. I will, however, get her to walk a different route, perhaps a slightly longer one. The changes to the continuous training will be a further increase in intensity and equipment, much like last week. So the equipment this week will be a rowing machine. Again, this is to kind of change it up and prevent tedium, as it's something that she's unfamiliar with. This week the client will again work at 65 to 70% of their maximum heart rate, as like I previously mentioned, I want her to still be in the same system. This again will enable her body systems to still adapt due to the increase in demand of this exercise from the previous week's demands, but it'll also not push her to the point where she can't continue to work and exercise at that intensity. It will adapt her aerobic system and improve the health of her body systems as well, so respiratory system and cardiovascular systems. I don't want to increase the zone she's working in, so I feel I want her to stay working aerobically to improve general health of her body systems and her aerobic. The adaptation to this week is that the session will now last 35 minutes. Extending the time she works for will mean she's working in that zone still, and she's working aerobically and using aerobic glycolysis for longer. So her body adapts to that to enable that she can do that without fatigue and continue in those zones without fatigue, meaning that she's better off and can last longer in the future. I will also increase the resistance to 8% of her body weight or equivalent on the rowing machine. So this is an increase on prior weeks and will ensure that the client is having to adapt to the increased demand so that progress is made. So the warm-up and cool-down will be the same as all of the previous weeks for the continuous training, but she will have, it will obviously be on a rowing machine, so she will warm up on a rowing machine with no resistance at no higher than 55% of her maximum heart rate. She'll then dismount the rowing machine and do the stretches that were mentioned previous weeks, so lunges, open the gate, close the gate, and the quadricep stretch. And she will do a cool down, simply rowing at 0 resistance until her heart rate returns to just a maximum of 80 beats per minute. The only difference in the warm-up and cool-down this week is that the warm-up will also include stretches on her arms due to the demand of rowing. So she'll do arm circles, and she will also do a stretch where she pulls her arm across her body, which I will obviously demonstrate for her. So I've actually also changed the warm-up for my high-intensity interval training session this week as well. Again, I don't want her to be doing the same thing every week. I don't want it to become boring for her, because I would like her to continue to exercise after this program as well. I want it to become something that she enjoys and something that she wants to do. So the warm-up will be resistance-bound stretches this week. So of course first I need to raise her pulse, raise her heart rate. So she'll do shuttle runs up and down to raise her heart rate, changing speed on my command. After that she'll do a series of resistance stretches, so that will consist of lunges, side steps, push-ups, front raises, donkey kicks, glute bridges, hamstring stretches and quadricep stretches, and they will all be 10 reps, except for the push-ups, which will be 5 reps. Again, that focuses on all aspects of her body, so we'll warm her up for the high demand of the exercises and activities that will be in the main session. And it's very specific, also quite specific to her legs, which she'll be using for each and every exercise in the main session as well. So yeah, it prepares her and means that she won't get injured in the session.